Hello, everyone. Welcome to the People Strategy Forum. Every leader remembers that one person who believed in them before they believed in themselves. What if you could be that person for someone else and change the path of their career in life? Would you do it? Mentorship is not a nice to have anymore, it's a necessity. In our world, things are changing really quick. Rapid change, social disconnection, digital overload. Great leaders are defined by how they lift others up. So today's guest, Colleen Stanley, is an award-winning author, speaker, and founder of Sales Leadership Development. She's here to remind us that mentorship is leadership. And her new book, Be the Mentor Who Mattered, is a powerful call to action for professionals who want to make a difference, one conversation at a time. Whether you're a senior leader guiding the next generation or simply who wants to create more connection and purpose in your work, this conversation will inspire you to show up, listen, and lead by example. So let's welcome Colleen Stanley. Hi, Colleen.
Liam, thank you for having me. I have to tell you, that's the best introduction I've ever been given. I think I should have had you as the co-author on the book. So thank you. You definitely are grabbing what we're trying to accomplish with this book and message.
Great. Well, I've known you for quite a while, Colleen, and your book opens up with a very personal story about losing your brother John when you were just 14. A
Yes.
loss that it's deeply affected you and your family and shaped your outlook on life. And you said that that experience helped you understand the power of mentors and those pivotal moments. So can you share that period in your life and how it really drove you to find your why and your belief that mentorship is so important?
Yes, and thank you for that. My brother John was killed in a car accident and he was 17, 18, and I was 14.
Hmm.
And, he was a very charismatic and just kind person. And what I always appreciated about him, Sam, is that, we grew up in a small town and
Yeah.
he was the guy. I mean, he was the football captain, the basketball captain, terrific athlete, good looking. And he took care of everybody. So he didn't have a big ego. And that, it always struck me, even at a young age. And I think that stuck with me, how he could have been the guy and egotistical, and yet he looked out for everyone. So his death obviously was devastating. And then my parents divorced within about a year. And it was a really contentious divorce. And so the family unit fell apart. And so as I was getting ready to market this book, I hired a coach and kind of what's my positioning? What's my why?
Hmm.
And so she asked me questions, and that's when she said, Colleen, the death of your brother is why you're writing this book, because your parents simply at that time weren't capable of filling the many voids you needed. And so for me, Sam, I think I so appreciated any guidance I got, any support. And that's why I could remember a lot of my mentor stories. And I was always surprised at some of my friends. I was like, well, who are your mentors? And they go, I don't think I had any. And so my goal is really to have people realize you probably had more than you think, because it could be just one sentence a person said, one conversation that changed your thinking. And so yeah, that got it started. And I can tell you, every morning in my quiet time for the last probably 4 or 5 years, I start with gratitude. And I would be thanking the many mentors that showed up. So that probably motivated me to end up writing this book.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that even in our throughout our professional life, there's that one coach that can bring that piece out that really redefines and changes how we think about life going forward. So it's wonderful that you've written this book and that you had that inspiration.
Yes, yes. And really the book I wanted to write not only to thank my mentors, but as you know, we've got probably over 25 stories contributed from other people. And they're thanking their mentors. And hopefully everyone, by reading my stories, my co-author stories, their stories, they'll realize that, hey, I've got the ability to step up and help up. I don't need a big title. I don't need a big office. I think that's sometimes the myth that we can't mentor unless we're famous or, highly, highly successful. And you'll find through those stories, it's one moment and one word of encouragement, and you can help someone take a right turn rather than a bad turn. Mhm.
So one thing that you also mentioned is that mentorship right now is a bit of in a crisis. You write how the community has frayed and informal mentorship is disappearing. So what's driving that breakdown?
I think when you take a look at the, macro environment, there's three places I talk about in the book. I call it the perfect storm, these non-weather fronts hitting. And as you said, the perfect storm, the first one is the breakdown in community. So let's talk business because that's probably your biggest audience listening
Yeah.
today. So after COVID, a lot of companies went remote. And I don't know if they knew how to do it well because I think sometimes they thought with remote working it was remote leadership. And so if you roll back in time, Sam, and probably you experienced this as I did, you would go into an office
Mm.
and many times you simply got informal mentorship. It could be a hallway conversation. I know my boss, Klein Boyd, who was a terrific mentor to me, he would do the walk around every morning at varsity. And he'd stop in, and it was only 5 minutes. He goes, how was your evening last night? What'd you do? That's great. Let me know if you need anything today. Now, that may not sound like this uh, big moment, but you knew that somebody cared.
Yeah.
And he did it every morning. And it wasn't because he had time. Those are little ways that you create community. So, what I see happening is I've seen young professionals that have told me, I have never met my boss.
Huh.
Seriously? And then we know, and this is the work you do, Gallup has shown for years, people feel more engaged and they stay longer if they have a best friend at work.
Right.
Well, if we don't have a best friend at work, which can be a peer mentor or your boss mentor or another mentor, that's, I think, leading to that lack of engagement there. So that's one breakdown. The other one is something we all know about is the unintended consequences of technology and social media. And so I actually have some stats here that I put in the book. So Jonathan Haidt wrote the book, The Anxious Generation. That generation is now hitting the workplace
Mm.
because it was in 2010 that the research showed, oh, when we got the smartphones that had the social media and the ability to take pictures, that's also when depression and anxiety increased.
Yeah.
And so you've got now suicide rates for young women up 167%, young men 91. And we're sitting here going, well, what do we do? Well, we need mentors that can step in and say, you know what? This isn't the way you live. In business, what I've seen and maybe you've observed this as well. People come into meetings, and
Hmm.
whether it's a Zoom meeting or in person. Well, back in the good old days, you didn't have computers. Yes, I am 100. Okay. And so you'd have your notebook, and then you'd sit and talk to the person to the right and to the left of you.
Yeah.
Today, people come in, they're sending off the last email, they got beads of sweat coming down there. And so it's always curious. You are more concerned about sending one email than making one more connection that's sitting right next to you, whether it's in person or on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So we've got some unintended consequences there. And then there's the pace of change, which we can talk about.
Right, right. But no kidding. I think you bring up a really good point about that social connection. I mean, not on your phone, but the person sitting next to you. I don't know how many times, or if you just go walk around. I think I saw this AI generated video of some guy that
Yes.
just went around and recorded people, and they used AI to remove the phones and looked at how weird everybody looked, and
Yes.
they were just like this and disconnected and not talking to people next to them. And then if you look at a movie from the 1950s, it is a completely different experience. So
Hmm.
it's just amazing how our culture has changed and been influenced by this, and why it's so important for us to bring this back to life, to really bring back human connection in this world of automation.
Yes. And you know what? It's going to take strong leaders because they're not modeling the connection behavior. They're just as bad as everyone. They're on their phones all the time in a coaching conversation. So they're literally not looking up and paying attention either. And, we share the story of Dr. Dover. And in his classes at the University of Dallas, Texas, he doesn't allow cell phones in his classrooms.
Hmm.
And, in more and more schools, I know down in Durango, I think they've done that for about 7 years. But,
Yeah.
think about the pushback he got originally. But he knows you can't learn, you can't interact. And so I really think we need more leaders like that are saying, when we meet, we are here to meet. We are here to connect. We're not here to have two meetings, one with your phone and computer and one with each other, because you can't run two meetings at the same time.
Right. So, what are some early warning signs that that leaders can identify when their organization lacks that mentorship culture or that communication culture, as we've been talking about?
Well, one, I think this is very obvious. A person simply isn't making progress.
Okay.
Because, today with the pace of change, there is literally no one person that can keep up with it all. I don't know about you, Sam, but some days it feels like the whack-a-mole game, right? And you were way ahead on AI, but you master one thing in AI and boom, there's another
Yeah.
skill to master. So I think they're not progressing. Apathy. I think the popular term now is quiet quitting. Well, that could be a hiring issue, obviously. But quiet quitting might be just, I don't know how to do this, so I'm just going to give up. And so we might mistake apathy for laziness when they simply need a little guidance.
Hmm.
Or it could just be encouragement. Hey, it's supposed to be hard right now. You're brand new in your position. For young professionals, I don't know if they get sent that message enough. Like, no, it's supposed to be hard. And I know after a keynote I gave, I had a young lady come up because I had told her the story of my face plants and some of the things that were disappointing and how long it took me to master things. She goes, "Thank you." On social media, all we see are these influencers that are overnight millionaires. You got the filters, everybody looks perfect. And she was just like, "Thank you. I didn't know it was supposed to be this hard." So I normalized the difficulty of getting good. And I
Yeah.
think that's what a mentor can do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you bring up. I mean, I think today's world, I mean, we are given so many things. Things are so easy to get, and compared to the past, that we don't understand that the struggle is what really refines and makes a process beautiful. So I'm glad to hear you say that. I think that really shows the success in people that when they go through that hard time, they understand that struggle is part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, in the book when, a lot of times we'll think about a business mentor and that's well and good.
Mhm.
But I also wanted to change up people's thinking. Like just by modeling how you live your life, you could be to this point we're talking about, you could be a resiliency mentor. So people might see and know that maybe you've gone through a tough time. And when they see you go through it and you come out better, not bitter, as they call it, they're
Right.
like, I want to be like that person. So just modeling in life can serve as a great mentor.
Yeah, so that's one way, but you say that mentorship is should be really well ingrained in leadership. So how can leaderships better integrate these habits in their daily life? What are some cues here?
If here's what I'd say, okay, you're running the organization. I would incorporate this all the way into your hiring process. I would vet people to see if they have a spirit of giving and sharing.
Hmm.
Because I know I started with a startup basically that blew up. So we were moving very fast. And you got a lot of opportunities for promotion, but sometimes you didn't get the training and coaching.
Hmm.
So I had a couple of peers that helped me out tremendously. Now, where I'm going to go back to the hiring, I don't even think we had that formal of a hiring process. They hired people that had a servant's heart. They hired people that cared. So then I think you also start setting the expectation. And the expectation at this company is no one goes it alone. So you look up, you look around, become a search and rescue worker. Who's somebody that's brand new at the company? Pick up the phone and call them. If you're in the office, walk by, take them to lunch. And so I think you hire for it and then you set the expectation. And then the other thing is you get rid of the excuse, we don't have time. And we do give some practical tips in the book. But see, that's the other thing. I've got kids I'm raising, I got aging parents. And in fairness, that's pretty stretch. But you can always find 30 minutes in a week. You can find an hour in a month. So you might tack it on to something you're already doing. And so those would be the three things I take a look at: hire, expectation, and get rid of the excuses. Everybody has time to mentor.
Yeah, I love that you bring the attention to the hiring the right people and ensuring that that's part of their mindset. I just had a conversation with an HR leader the other day that said that, oh, we found we went through a committee and everybody thought that they found the perfect person. He had the right knowledge and skills and abilities. And then when I interviewed him, it was just he was not willing to really bring up other people. And
Yes.
so and so she made this aware to everybody else, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, you're right. I mean, we have to make sure that people have the right behaviors if we really want to bring communication and mentorship into an organization." So yeah, thanks for bringing that out.
hmm and I'm going to add on to that, Sam, the profession I've been in for how many years now, over 30, is sales. Well, again, I'll go back in the day. It was okay to hire lone rangers. They did quite well. They're independent, they're self-starting, they set the goal. That's not going to work going forward because you just can't keep up with everything you need to learn.
Mm,
So, where Lone Rangers might have been a great hire, even as close as even 10 years ago, that is not going to be your best hire to create these communities. And that's what you need, communities, people helping people.
mm. And so in mentorships, you just mentioned that there's the pace of the world is moving so quickly that it's difficult for somebody to be an expert in a broad sense. So is this a way where we, as a leader in an organization, to identify people that are specialists in different topics to really assign them a mentor that is going to lead to significant change in a particular topic?
That would be appropriate,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's going to happen more in your larger organizations where they've got more systems and processes there. And that might be something also when you're hired, you're going to be charged with teaching. Now, for some people, that could strike fear in their heart. But
Hmm.
remember, teaching at like you and I do it, it's formal, we got the exercises. Sometimes teaching is simply sitting next to somebody, walking side by side and saying, this is why you do it, this is how you do it. So you don't need to make teaching scary. But again, it goes back to the expectation. And also, what we're going to see here is hopefully more peer mentoring, and we're going to see reverse mentoring. So I know in the sales profession, I will have some young sales professionals that are really good with the tech tools for prospecting research. Now, what the senior reps are good at, they just know how to have the conversation,
Yeah.
right? They've been in the C-suite. They're not going to do any of the weird sales tactics that sometimes you do when you're young. And so you can have this wonderful combination of peers mentoring peers, reverse
Right.
mentoring. hmm
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
that's
But
great.
I would say to people, don't worry that you don't have a teaching degree. You'd be surprised at what you know, and sometimes you just need to share that. hmm
Right. So I mean, when let's just say that we want to be intentional by mentoring a person. So is how should we set this up? I mean, is it just a casual conversation? Is it purpose driven? I mean, how should the conversations be set up?
I think it could go both ways.
Mhm.
Okay. It can be formal where you get assigned a mentor. Now, with the formal, and there's a lot of books out there that talk
Mhm.
about that, Sam. This book is not one because there are so many that have talked about that. So you've got a mentor, mentee, you've got goals, progress reports, check-ins. That can work very, very well. However, what I'm trying to encourage people to do is look up and around and who needs help.
Mhm.
So often people won't ask for help, especially young professionals, because they're looking at you. You're busy, you got a big title, so they don't want to bother you. They've got that self-talk going on. And so you're the first one to offer up. And so I think the informal is as important. And I received a lot of informal mentoring. So it wasn't really um, set checkpoints. But anytime I asked my boss for a coaching session, I'd get it. But
Mhm.
it wasn't formally set up like what I see today, formal one-on-one coaching sessions every other week or every week. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because I was thinking because in this fast-paced world, I mean, there are leaders. I mean, it's a reality that they are sometimes heads down, and
Oh, yeah.
they are stressed and so forth, and they may not be very mindful or observant of of the people that need help around them. So I'm trying to find of ways that they can be more intentional. I mean, is it something that they have to schedule in, or a reminder saying, "Hey, I need to think about this," or maybe I should just get up and look around and walk around the office, as you mentioned early on.
Well, and here's what I would say to your point. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal recently that talked about how companies, for whatever reason, I don't agree with it, they are putting people in charge of more people.
Hmm.
Now, they're thinking some of the technology will take care of that, right? Well, that we keep trying to replace people with technology. That's a whole nother
Yeah.
podcast, right? So that's the reality. This is where people that are in non-leadership positions can step up.
Mm.
So again, you might not be you don't have a title of a manager at all, but you're doing a similar job. So you could be the one that sits there and goes, "Hey, let's go to lunch. Hey, let's schedule a call. I sense that you might be struggling with this," or
Yeah.
simply somebody that, they might be having some self-doubt. So I believe in companies, you're going to have mentors that step up because the leaders are heads down and they're being charged with trying to manage too many people.
Hmm. Yeah, so well, I want to dig in what you mentioned as far as AI and automation and how it's reshaping how we're communicating. What does human mentorship look like in this new era going forward? What are the watchouts that leadership needs to worry about, and how can we harness technology to actually improve the situation?
So what I'm seeing with some of the tech tools, and I'll probably speak to the sales profession,
Hmm.
they're getting more refined tools that can actually do the role plays with you. How do you deal with an objection? How do you present a value proposition? And I think those are well and good. But if I never talk to a human being, I am not going to feel like I belong to this community. I am not going to feel like somebody cares about me, thinks I'm important. My AI tool may say, "Great job." You know what? It's going to be better when my boss, my mentor is looking at me going, "You did that exceptionally well."
Yeah.
I also think, a lot of times in life, with the rapid pace of change, what I start seeing is all of us have a little bit of this self-doubt. We're looking around going, can we make it?
Mm.
Now, you might have an AI bot that can assure you of that, but another human being that can say, "Hey, listen, I've been through change, not this much, not this fast, but here's the mindset it takes to go through change." And so you exchange stories, you validate that, no, this is not easy. And guess what? It's forever now. See, that's the hard part. This is forever now. There's a wonderful woman, Dr. Nadia, and I literally can't pronounce her last name, but it's in the book, by the book. And what she pointed out when I heard her speak, Sam, she said, you used to do a big transformation, and then you had a couple of years to settle in.
Mm.
We no longer have a couple of years to settle in. So mentors are going to have to pose that reality, but let's go on this journey together because we're gonna be on this really big change roller coaster for the rest of our lives. Mhm.
Right. And be connected and have regular touch points for communication so that you can definitely stay in touch. So one,
Yeah.
one other thing that I was just thinking of as technology that I heard about the other day, where it was a recognition program. So basically, when a person completes a certification and training or accomplishes a goal for maybe
Hmm.
their performance management, then the leader is informed, say, "Oh, so and so just completed this training, just did this. You should, recognize them or go over and thank them or seeing how they're applying that skill." So I think that there's some ways that tools can bring awareness to us, and when we're so distracted by many other things. So I'm hoping that we use these tools responsibly in going forward. I think it's a big challenge for leadership.
And here's what I would add to that. I bet the person that gets the message sends a text or an email. Pick
Yep.
up the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Schedule a call. See, that's where, again, if you're not in the office and you just rolled me back way in time. So I don't know if this is going to be a good story to connect with this,
Yeah.
but it's the power of the human recognition. So I was working with a group of commercial real estate brokers,
Mm.
and I was, I think, conducting a coaching session with one of the brokers. Sam, he had just earned a $60,000 commission check. And he seemed disgruntled. I said, "You just earned 60 grand." He said, "It'd sure be nice if the president could come out of his office and thank and congratulate me."
That's
Now
right.
think about this. And that was over 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Human connection. And this is not a sissy. He's not a fluff ball. Pretty hardcore guy. So we keep trying to offload the human part. And guess what? You just can't until the robots are running the world. And I hope I'm dead by that time. So anyway,
But you're
that
right. I
sounded
mean,
really negative, didn't it?
yeah, no, but you're right there, Colleen. I mean, people they want to just to be they want to be appreciated. And a simple thank you is often enough to really lay that in their hearts. So
Yeah.
you're right. But
You
I
know,
think go
I'll
ahead.
I'll share a story that I didn't put in the book because there were so many. So Sam, when I was in my late 20s, I was a sportswear buyer for a small set of retail stores. They were called half-price stores. And so I started as a merchandiser, which is all you are doing is tracking merchandise. Everybody's lying to you. So it sounds really fancy. Well, then I was promoted to assistant buyer. Now, this is a lot of numbers. This is like, okay, where are you spending money? Where are you going to have your ad money go, etc. Now, the script I had in my head was from high school that I wasn't good at math. And I really wasn't. I think I got a D in algebra. Okay, that now people are going to quit listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
So in my head, it was like, I'm not good at math. So I'm sitting with my boss. Now, by any description, this is not a good boss. This is back in the day when you had the big break room and, Tony's going through a pack of cigarettes and he's talking, he's talking, he's talking. And then he looks at me and he stops and he goes, you know what? You're really smart. And I said this to him. I said, no, I'm not. Now, who says that to their boss, right? Tony says, no, you're really grabbing these numbers quite quickly. And right there, now think about that. That was back in my 20s, and I still remember it. My brain started going, well, maybe I am smart. Maybe I can do numbers. And so just that one moment from my chain smoking, and he had no other EQ skills, by the way. But wow, that's what we can do in the human factor. And I don't know if an AI tool could have picked that up,
Yeah, right. It's
right?
just that right that timing and that emotional connection that you have with the
Yeah.
person and the timing. And I think and just like you said, even maybe that your boss at that time didn't have a whole lot of other EQ skills, but there's you can get something from everyone, and it's just a matter of
Yes.
timing and listening and so
Yeah,
forth.
okay. And you know what, Sam? Let's make that point.
Yeah.
A bad boss can actually be a good mentor.
Mm. Tell me more.
Well, for example, you might have a bad boss, but you get an example of how you don't want to lead. Okay.
Yeah.
I do have this story in the book, and I won't go into the whole story, where at the same company, I had to have a conversation with the big boss, and I had really done just a ton to get this merchandise in the door, and I didn't make it in time. And I'm telling him everything I did, and he's just writing a note, not even looking at me, then looks up and says, sounds like you didn't get the job done. Went back to writing his note. And I'm like, today that would, I mean, be appalling, right?
Yeah.
But here's what it did. I went back to my desk. I looked at everything I did to get this particular task done that did not get done. And really, to the best of my ability, I could not have done any more.
Hmm.
Here's the lesson I learned, though. I could live with that. See, I could live with it,
Yeah.
but I could live with it because I'd done my best. So anytime I want to start taking a shortcut in life or, this is getting too hard, those words come back to my head. Sounds like you didn't get the job done.
Mm. Wow.
hmm
Yes.
So I'm going to do everything I can to get the job done. And if I still screw up, if it fails, falls short, I can live with that.
Yes,
hmm
for sure. Well, I want to turn to another thing you mentioned in your book about the ripple effect of mentorship. So what can organizations do to really cause a ripple effect? I mean, first, what is it, and how can we really create a culture of mentorship in our organization?
Well, I think it's a few things we've talked about, Sam.
Yeah.
Hire
Hmm.
people, set the expectation for it, and then I think recognize it as well. If you think about what we get recognized, it is for very, very tangible
Okay.
outcomes. And perhaps at companies, at your awards dinner, at whatever they do for recognition, perhaps they start bringing to the top, let's recognize Tom, let's recognize Shirley. They have given hours of mentorship. And so we start recognizing sometimes the invisible, which produces the visible results.
Hmm.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
but but is
But
there Is there something that we can do to, I mean, I know that we hire right, we ensure we have the right people, but is there something that we can do to influence more mentorship I don't want to call it a program because it sometimes it loses the authenticity, but is it being visible as modeling as a leader in how you're mentoring others, or is there other things that we can do to bring more attention towards the importance of mentorship?
Well, I would be asking the audience, how
Mm.
much is mentorship a topic at your company?
Mm. Yeah.
See, I don't know if we're talking about it because, see, it's not a new topic, right? Socrates, mentored Plato in the art of inquiry. I think it's gone away a little bit. Or here's the other thing I think that's happened, Sam, is that in the books that I ordered in, because I wanted to write something that was different, your readers don't need to be reading the same thing.
Hmm.
So these are good books. Often they were about famous people that got mentored by famous people. So I think right there it puts a myth in the only people that get mentored are people that end up being famous.
Mm.
Or it tended to be books where they had big titles. So I think, first of all, making it a point of topic. And in fact, when you start every meeting, you could start with this question: who'd you help this week? Who'd
Mm.
you help mentor this week? Who'd you help move forward to their goals? Because this, I also believe, is a consequence unintended of social media. We have become an increasingly more self-absorbed society. I mean, we're absorbed in our phone, we're absorbed in our LinkedIn, we're absorbed in our likes. And what self-absorption leads to is lack of other absorption.
Hmm.
See, we're not paying attention helping somebody else hit their goals. Um, and so I think you've got to take a look at that. And so that could be the consistent coaching question. Who'd you help this week? Who'd you help achieve a goal? Who'd you help feel better about themselves? Who'd you help encourage? How did you model resiliency? So I think that's the way you take it from being this nice esoteric topic to a tangible.
That's what I was looking for. That I think that's very helpful. And I'm thinking that that could be really, really powerful. And just leaders having their one-on-ones with people and asking them that question and how that they've
Mhm.
helped their peers and enabled their peers for success. I think that can be very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so that's where Nito Cobain, and this is in the book, he's the president at High Point University. His freshmen are required to complete 50 hours of community service work.
Uh,
And part of the reason is, and he has a wonderful story in the book. I believe part of the reason is he is trying to move us from a self-absorbed society to an other-absorbed society. And
yeah.
so that's a requirement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's smart. I think that, and I do think that some of the younger generations are coming with that mindset of, hey, I want to do something more than just work. I want to have a larger impact in life, and so they're looking beyond the borders that were traditionally there in business. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the one thing for the younger generation, and this is where we'll need those strong mentors, is especially the ones that got those phones, in 2010 and now it's 2025, is these mentors really need to model and say, we're putting our phones away because I'm going to say it again. The leaders are the problem here. And
Mm.
we think it's because of the kids, No, because I have done trainings in both settings. And there was one group I trained, and I thought, oh, this is going to be hard because the company was blowing up in a good way, fast growth. And they also were a technology company. There wasn't a cell phone in the room for 2 days.
Uh,
Fast forward, I'm at another company. You couldn't get them to put them away after multiple requests. Guess what the difference was? The leadership's expectation, how this leaders ran their own meetings. And so I'm imploring the leaders, you need to be the one that changes these addictive behaviors. And there's no other word for it.
mhm.
It's addiction at this point.
Right. Hmm.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah, and that's and I know a lot of and it's funny, it is totally addictive. And a lot of social media companies know that, leaders know that. And when they're saying, well, I make sure that my children don't see. don't do this. So it's right. So it's we should be learning from what they do as well. It's a
Oh yeah, Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs, wouldn't allow any phones at his table. He's the one that
yeah.
created this whole mess, right? And so, yeah.
Yeah.
But see, that takes discipline upon the leader's part because they're as addicted.
Yeah.
And so, and with the addiction, you don't have the ability to focus. So how are you going to do critical thinking? And if you
Mhm.
can't do critical thinking, you're not going to make it in the day and age of AI. If you don't have the ability to focus, you can't develop the empathy skill, which is a key skill in making emotional connections,
Yeah.
because empathy is a paying attention skill. So there's all sorts of things. If you are addicted, you've lost just like the one skill, the ability to focus, which has a whole bunch of complications behind it.
Yes. This was a conversation I was just having with my daughter the other day, and she's and so remember, and I was telling her, so remember those days when you came to me and you would say, "I'm so bored, I got nothing to do." And it's like, well, we're now finding that boredom is very important. It's when you're doing your
Absolutely.
self-reflection, and it's very your strategic thinking. So it's a
Hmm.
purposeful. But
Yes, it is.
but
Hmm.
Colleen, I'd love to just dive back into your book really quick. I would love to
Oh
hear.
yeah, can I hold it up
Oh
and show
yeah, please
everybody?
do.
Look. Oh yeah,
The
see?
mentor that matters. Brand new, hot off the presses. Right. So,
Yes.
so Colleen, tell me your favorite story in that book.
Boy, is that a hard one. My favorite story. Oh, there are so many. I would have to say I don't think I have one, but I will say the one we kick off in the contributors chapter. It is from Nito Cobain, and he was an immigrant to this country. Came here with $50 in his pocket, and he was going through school. And when it came time to meet, I've got to look at the story again. But basically, I think it was his enrollment counselor said, you fell short on your tuition.
Hmm.
However, an anonymous donor stepped up to pay it.
Uh,
And he tells about how that night he went home, he got on his knees and prayed, and he said, if I'm ever in a position to pay it forward, I'm going to. Well, now since then, he has started very successful businesses. He's the president of High Point University, and he started a Nito Cobain Foundation, which has given millions to scholarships.
wow.
So I love the story for a couple reasons. An anonymous donor. Now
Hmm.
you may not put that as a mentor. That's a mentor, because he modeled generosity without needing a big statue. I also think it's wonderful. That's the ripple effect we talk about, because then he influenced Nito to do the same for others.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there's so many great stories in there. It's just in a world that, obviously is full of bad news because that's what sells. We all know it. This is a book that'll tell you there's a lot of good news out there and there's a lot of good people stepping up and helping them.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to dive into it further. I've just started, but I'm going to get through those stories here soon. But Colleen, tell me for our listeners out there who want to take action today, what should be their first step to become a mentor that truly matters?
The first step I'd ask somebody to do is take 10 minutes and really write down all the people that made a difference in your life. And don't sit there and think, well, I didn't have a 10-year relationship. I want you to think of a word they said, a conversation, because then that's going to bring the attention to your forefront on how important those conversations were. The second thing that I'd ask you to do is simply make a decision. Everything starts with a decision. Because if you sit there and go, well, I'm going to do it, I'm going to make a decision, and it starts small. Make a decision that 30 minutes a month you're going to give of your time. So you might look around your company, your community. I mean, you might have brand new parents that are sitting there going, oh my God, I'm never going to get another night's sleep. And you're a parent, Sam, I'm not. So you look up and around and then offer up. And then don't get too worried about, I don't have any teaching abilities. I'm not a coach. I'm not a professional consultant. Teach what you know from the heart.
Mm,
And if your intention is good, the words will come out.
yes.
Mhm.
I often say, hey, if you go into a conversation to deliver value, to deliver love to another, that's where it's going to go all right. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to overthink it. Just think about helping and giving value.
Yeah. And be curious because as you mentor people, You're going to find that they come from different walks of life, and you may not even agree with sometimes their perspective, but curiosity is always wonderful because then you find out what's informing that person, and then if that information that is guiding their life isn't serving them well, then that's when you can provide maybe better advice or direction. But you've always got to be curious. It's like, what's informing this person?
Mhm.
What would make them want to go this path when you clearly know from your life experience that is not the path they want to go down? And so you have that when you're mentoring some of the young college students, and I'm kind of like, no, you do not want to be doing that. But instead, I have to figure out where did that information come from, and then and only then can I, provide some maybe better direction.
Yes. Well, Colleen, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's been great catching up and talking about your new book. So thank you so much.
You bet.
What are some things that our leaders out there, if they're thinking about, hey, I want to talk to Colleen, where can they find the book? Where can they contact you?
Yeah, so our website is salesleadershipdevelopment.com. I'm obviously on LinkedIn. We're pretty active there. And then the book is up on Amazon. So you can go one or all three places. We'd love to have you have us join this mentor movement we're creating.
Great. Well, to all our leaders out there, thanks for tuning into the People Strategy Forum. If you felt that this episode inspired you, please share it with a member of your team, somebody that needs to be that mentor who mattered. And then also please like on LinkedIn and YouTube. And we'll be seeing you next week on the People Strategy Forum.